I have two things I'm looking forward to this week. Getting a haircut for the first time in way too long. No more home haircuts. And I'm getting a new phone. Exciting week. But that's beside the point. Today we are here to talk about a few misconceptions about feeding. Now, feeding is super complicated. Doesn't matter how old your kids are. If you've got picky eaters or kids who refuse to try what you're trying, it can be really stressful. So I thought, since there are so many feeding resources out there, and a lot of them are really wonderful, just like everything else, it's just kind of information overload if you go down the internet or YouTube rabbit hole. So my hopes with this video is to shed light on a few, I think I picked four misconceptions that can be overlooked, or things that I've learned throughout my time as a feeding therapist that I wish more parents knew. So that's our goal today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell, you know the deal. Oh, I also asked for Christmas for a ring light because I'm using the flashlight on the phone to give me something, and we got this cool shadow behind me, but guys, it's a work in progress. Anywho, the first misconception that I want to talk about, stage 3 baby foods. Let's talk about those. So the misconception here is that if my baby struggles moving to stage 3 baby foods, they have sensory issues. Stage 3 baby foods are the worst. Some kids do fine with them. Don't get me wrong. Some kids can go to the stage 3, have no issues, eat it, they're fine, move on. But many, many, many kids refuse stage 3s, gag a ton, sometimes to the point of vomiting, and then it can be really stressful if they've done fine with stage 1s, did fine with stage 2s, stage 3, all of a sudden, because it's a different texture, it gets labeled as a texture issue, when in reality, I would say 9 or more than 9 times out of 10, the real issue there is an oral motor issue. It's a mismatch between the expectations from the food and the food that we're presenting. So let's look at what a stage 3 baby food is. Stage 3 baby foods are basically like a thicker puree with random chunks of carrots, peas, whatever. And so it has multiple textures in one spoonful. So let's think about, as an adult, let's say you're eating chunky applesauce. So you take a spoonful, you as an adult can take those chunks of apple, move them over to your teeth with your tongue, chew them. You might swallow some of the actual applesauce while you're chewing, then move the chunks back to your tongue and swallow it. So you have to find the chunks, move them, bring them back, and swallow them, all while managing the more liquidy puree part. That is a lot of work. So far, up until this point, with stage 1 and stage 2 baby foods, all your tongue has to do as a baby is move forward and backwards. They might do a little bit of side-to-side movement, and if they're eating other, like maybe a teething biscuit or something that melts, they're probably starting to learn how to move their tongue to the side and munch on things. If they're doing puffs even, that is something that melts, so you don't really have to chew it. End of the day, they do not have the skills needed to pull those chunks out, mash them, bring them back, and swallow them. So what happens is they do what they're used to, which is moving their tongue front and back and maybe mashing up and down, but those chunks are so significant that it makes them gag. And if they try to swallow it, it might trigger a very strong gag response that can result in vomiting. So who wants to do that? So then these babies can start to be wary of anything that comes on a spoon, because they're like, I remember that made me throw up last time and I don't want it. So stage 3 baby foods, in conclusion, if your child does not do well with them and they've done fine with 1s and 2s, just skip them. They are not necessary. At that point, just go to table foods. Whether you want to do like soft things that are mashed a little bit more. So you are making that transition from a level 2 to a thicker, even consistency, even textured food, or just giving them chunks that are big enough for them to pick up themselves and put in their food, in their mouth themselves. So if your baby struggles moving to stage 3 baby food, that does not necessarily mean that they have texture issues or sensory issues with feeding. It is most likely a mismatch of oral motor skills to the food expectations. Misconception number 2 kind of piggybacks off of that. So this misconception is that any baby who struggles to move between any textures, whether it's a hard time going from bottle to level 1s to level 2s, level 2s to table foods, any trouble transitioning means that they have sensory issues. Let's go back to number 1. It more than likely is a mismatch of the oral motor skills they have, the practice that they have, and the food expectations. So the best way to get practice is to keep presenting it and to keep offering ways for them to practice, and not giving up after 1 or 2 tries of a new texture or a new food. Babies and kids could need like 20, 30, 40, 100 presentations of a new food before it is legit accepted, no matter what, as a safe food. It can take multiple presentations of a new food, new texture, new flavor before it is like, no problem. Sometimes kids do not take that long. Sometimes kids will take anything. They're like, food? Great, love it. Let me try it. Just because your child takes longer or is slower to progress between things does not necessarily mean that they are going to have lifelong sensory or food problems. Some children are just more sensitive and need a slower progression between new foods and more presentations. Doesn't mean that there is necessarily a deficit or a delay. Kids are just different. Some kids just need a slower pace, and that's okay. In my video, How to Feed Your Child with Success, or How to Feed Your Baby with Success, I talk a lot about pacing, because the parent pace and the child pace may be totally opposite. And as the parent feeding the child, you need to be able to tune into what your child's pace is and what they're telling you. So if you're interested, you can watch that video. Don't know where it is, somewhere up here. Number 3. This misconception is very hard because it is emotional for parents. We put so much value on feeding our children, rightfully so. It's our job. But we, as parents, take it very personally when our kids don't eat well. So this misconception is to all you parents out there who are feeling this. Your child's picky eating is not your fault. Yes, there are things that parents can do to help their child be most successful at mealtime. That is a fact. If we only present chicken nuggets and mac and cheese, which, no judgment, because that is like pretty much what my child eats. If we only present that and we let our child eat whenever they want, if there's no expectation to sit at the table, we're going to eventually run into some issues if you all of a sudden go to grandma's house and sit down for pot roast dinner and they don't want to sit at the table and don't try anything. Is that part of your parenting responsibility if that expectation is placed and they can't meet it? Yeah, but a child's picky eating is not their attempt to hurt your feelings, to offend you, or to upset you or cause more chaos in your life. Kids are notoriously selfish. They are thinking about me, myself, and I. They're not thinking, oh, it's dinner time. I'm going to ask for chicken nuggets and mac and cheese because I know that makes mom mad. That's not where their brain goes. They're going to stick with what they know. They're going to stick with what is safe. Who wouldn't? So my advice here, one, account that I love to follow is Kids Eat in Color. She's on Instagram. Her name's Jennifer. Forget her last name. She's on Instagram and she has a blog, Kids Eat in Color. It has wonderful, succinct, to the point, realistic ways to help shape meal times and how to introduce new foods in a way that will set your child up for success. So, in conclusion with that one, yes, parents have responsibility on how to shape how their child eats at a mealtime, but what I'm getting at is they're wanting to stick with what they know and what is safe as far as food goes is not their attempt to offend you. I don't know why we go there in our minds as parents, probably because we are told that, we have to feed our kids the most healthy thing and you have to have a balanced diet and every food should include all of these things. Yes, we all want that, but it is hard. So again, Kids Eat in Color is a great resource to help you get there. It's possible. Just needs some effort and some time, a lot of time, and some prep work, and yeah. So just putting that out there. The final misconception, I don't know, I just wanted to throw this out there because I think that this is a cultural thing, maybe, I don't know. Enough rambling. My fourth and final thing is that the misconception is dinner food is dinner food and breakfast food is breakfast food. No one says that you have to eat breakfast foods at breakfast time. We all love breakfast for dinner every once in a while, but no one says that you can't have pizza or meatloaf for breakfast. We just culturally, we have these foods that we consider breakfast foods, lunch foods, and dinner foods. Especially with like toddler age, maybe they're at daycare all day, you come home and they are just done. You're facing dinner time and you again go back to those safe foods because they're easy, you know your kid's gonna take them, and there's nothing wrong with that. After a long day, your child has done so many things, they're exhausted. If you throw down a plate of meatballs and spaghetti with sauce and corn, with all of those different textures, lots of different tastes, and they resist, it could be that they just don't have the energy or the mental capacity to deal with that complex meal right now. Think about breakfast foods are generally soft, sweet, meltable, like cereal and milk, pancakes, French toast, fruit. These are easier foods than our common dinner foods like tacos, pizza even. It has a lot of textures together, like dishes that have a lot of different components. You've got a potato, you've got meat, you have a pasta, you have maybe vegetables. There's a lot going on, more so in our dinner foods than in our breakfast foods. So if you are a parent who has a child who, whether they're a toddler or elementary age, kids in elementary school can get tired too. If you are really, really struggling with dinner time, and you really, really, really want your child to eat what you are eating at dinner time, maybe the best time to introduce those foods, to give them that exposure, to give them that opportunity to practice, is not at dinner time. Where's the harm in offering some leftovers alongside their breakfast the next day? Maybe their best meal of the day when they eat a ton and just house it is lunchtime. Pull out what you had for dinner the night before and offer that alongside their lunch. I'm not saying necessarily replace it, because when you offer new foods, you should always have something that is safe and preferred. So if they choose not to eat the new thing, it's fine. There's no pressure to, but that gives them that opportunity to see it consistently, and it's not waiting for hard dinner time. We're going to choose a time when they are more likely to put their best foot forward. So in conclusion, yes, breakfast for dinner is fun for everyone every once in a while, but dinner for breakfast, that can happen too. Pick the time of day that your child does best, and that's a great time to try to introduce new foods, even if it is fish sticks with their breakfast cereal. Nobody is going to say, you can't have fish sticks at breakfast. Breakfast foods are not always just breakfast foods, and dinner foods are not just dinner foods. You can do whatever you want. I'm telling you that. So like I said at the beginning, feeding is complicated, and there's a lot of info out there. But I hope that some of these things just kind of give you like a, oh yeah, that makes sense, or I never thought of it that way, kind of a light bulb moment. If you have specific questions about picky eating, oral motor issues, or how to transition from this to that, or what to do in this situation, reach out. I am always looking for new recommendations for videos or handouts, content, whatever. Let me know. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next week.